Yeah, g'day YouTubers. Tinker O'Toole again here with another video. Today we're just going to talk about square ground cutters as opposed to round ground cutters. Now, square ground is the most aggressive chain. It cuts the best, roughly about 10 to 15% better than a full chisel, and probably maybe up to 10% better than Hexa. Now, interesting enough, if you ask the question, why is it the most aggressive? Well, quite simply, it's because the top plate and the side plate, the inward angle is about 40 degrees. What I mean by the inward angle on the top plate, that is coming in at 40 degrees. And on the side plate, it's coming in at 40 degrees as well, between 40 and 50. Now, if you were to put a 40-degree angle on a full chisel, it would have a very large beak on it. And if you have a large beak on it, it's prone to damage and it's prone to getting blunt very quick. Typically, a file will leave an angle, a top plate cutting angle of around 60 degrees. A file can never ever get, a round file will never ever get around 40 degrees. To do square ground, you'll need a special file. And this is a special file. If I can get it to focus, that is. And it's a velobe, and it's roughly 50 degrees on the corners. From the side to the corners, it's about 50 degrees. Now, very few people can file 100% accurately doing square ground. It's much more difficult than round filing. But the other thing that I'd noticed on steel chain was when we look at the tooth, how thick is the metal? This metal here on the side plate and this metal on the top plate. How thick is it, and how thick does it compare to other chainsaw chain? Well, I did a few measurements, and typically the top plate, this is right at the corner here where it intersects, so right at that corner underneath, it's about 1.05 millimeters. And the thickness of the side plate, right at the top where it intersects, is approximately 1.5 millimeters thick. So yeah, 1.5 millimeters. So now I've actually checked some other chains, and I found out that some of the other chains were thinner. The top plate I had 0.95, so I was getting 0.95 right up in this corner, and on here, rather than 1.5 on the still, I was getting 1.24. So this working corner, and that's why you've got a taper on, there's a taper on here, because this working corner needs to be the thickest so that it can support the point. Because if the metal's thinner, it's more prone to being bent. So normally, as I said before, the top plate angle, it's the angle on here, on square ground is normally between 15 and 20 degrees. Okay, so what we're going to do is have a good look at the square ground. Now, we zoom in there, you might even actually see this. I think, yeah, you can see this file a lot better. When I was talking about it before, when you do square ground, you use the edge of the file and this edge here. So they're the two edges. You don't use the V shape here. It's the side of the file and this edge. So when we look at the square ground, as you can see, the side plate, it's usually anywhere from about 5 degrees, yeah, 85 degrees on there. And we'll just see whether we can have a good look at the square ground. There it is there. You can see that shelf on there. You can see it. You can see it good there. It's because if you look at that very aggressive corner, you can see how on the top plate here and on the side plate, how it really bites into the timber. And you can see in this corner here how it's sort of like hollowed out a bit. So very, very aggressive. And if you look at the angle, a little bit difficult to see. I haven't measured this angle. This is the angle that's on here, on the top and the side plate. But it's normally between 40 and 50. So we'll measure that and I think you could just, a little bit difficult to see, but that angle coming down. And if that angle was on, if you were to put that angle on a standard full chisel of 40 degrees, you'll find out that you don't have enough support on the side plate if you've got that C shape. And it's amazing that, really that Hexa works as good as what it does, because if the thickness of the metal isn't thick enough, you won't have that proper support underneath. So Hexa's got 25 degrees top plate angle. So yeah, it's not as aggressive as this. This is much, much more aggressive. And that's why this cuts so well. But look, I've tried using the hand file, this type of file here. There's another file called Goofy. There's a few different type of files. There's 3 main files that people use. So there is a variation between them. And yet you've got to be really good at it. Yeah, it's not something that's really easy to do. You've got to hold it exactly at the right angle. And traditionally you file from the outside of the tooth to the inside. So you push the file from the outside in, whereas conventional filing, you file from the inside of the tooth to the outside, because the reason that you've got to do it that way is that you really don't have good vision filing from the inside to the outside. If you're filing with the tooth facing us how it is this way, you've got to get the corner, the file perfectly in that corner. That's the most critical part, to get that file right in that corner. If you can do that, and you can do it good, some people do it that bad that they file the tie strap. Yeah, they go. It's not the easiest thing to do. So I hope that sort of explains it a little bit better as to why it cuts so good. It's the 40-degree angle, and that 40-degree angle, and it's also not so much just the 40-degree angle on the top plate, it's the 40-degree angle on the inside of the side plate. And because of the side plate only has a slight slope on it compared to traditional type C or even Hexa, it has a lot of support for that 40-degree angle. And that's why you can have a 40-degree angle. You can't get that with a file. The only way that you can get that on round ground like this, a typical file will leave that C shape, and it'll roughly, if it's held in the right position, you get a 60-degree angle on a file. And that's why round filing is limited in its capacity into what it can actually file. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now. So the conclusion is, the most aggressive chain that you can buy is square ground. Now, you'll find out that if you do buy square ground chain, normally it will be sold to you in a skip tooth. or skip chain, which is generally used on larger bars, and they reduce the amount of cutters by about 30%. So it is the most aggressive. I don't think they sell it as, like an example would be, let's just say that you've got a 20-inch bar and it's got 72 drive links on it. I asked for a 20-inch chain, full square ground. They said, we don't sell it like that. I said, well, how do you sell it? They said, we only sell it in skip chain. I said, oh, okay, so I got this as a 20-inch skip chain. Yeah, look, it was just to play around with, to do some hand filing and to see what it was like. It's not for me because I don't want to spend all the time with the file. It's quite time consuming. I don't want to spend all my time doing that. It's probably just between 5 and 7% faster than Hexa. But I don't know about in the skip chain. You got 30% less teeth. So it's generally used on larger bars on underpowered saws. So let's just say that you've got a 72cc saw. You could quite easily run a 36-inch bar running skip tooth on square ground. That's generally where it's used. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.